My name is Eric Thomas, and I grew up in Western Massachusetts, small little town named Montgomery. I went on active duty on, I think it was about September 5th, 2001. And a week later, of course 9/11 happened to everybody. And so that kind of changed everything.
I'm Susan Thomas, and I am from Chester County, Pennsylvania. We met in 2002, in September of 2002, and that was right before the initial invasion of Iraq, which was in, I believe, March of 2003. So our relationship was fairly new when he deployed for the first time. And I had never really been as exposed to the military as I was through my relationship with Eric. As I prepared for his deployment, a lot of emotions were going through my mind. I was afraid that he wouldn't come back. That was my biggest fear, that he wouldn't come back at all, that he'd be injured or he'd come back visibly different.
I was only home for a couple months before I was asked to take charge of this team that was kind of a comm team for the 24th Marine Expeditionary Unit. It was called FOB Kalsu, and the Army had been there previously after the invasion. Things changed very rapidly and dramatically as soon as we got there. When we really started to get mortared a lot of the mortars centered around basically the chow hall. They were constantly a threat to our base. And it really, the entire time we were there, it was just a constant threat.
I was living in communities in Chicago and Philadelphia that were not military-centric whatsoever, and none of my friends understood what I was going through. I wanted to go home to wait for an email from Eric because I was worried, because the day before he had told me that he was waiting because there had been 2-3 mortar attacks at his FOB. He had said to me, you never know when it's your time. He said, you're sort of just sitting out there waiting and it could hit at any moment.
This is real. It's kind of like people's giving you the sobering, hey, this isn't a joke. This isn't training. There's literally people out there who are praying to their God that they kill you. We might have lost anywhere from 15 or more Marines.
They're on a plane one day and then they're in your arms the next day. They're sleeping in Kuwait, and then the next day they're sleeping in your bed with you. When I saw him, what was interesting for me was that he didn't want to go anywhere. Here I brought all these great outfits, and I got my spray tan and my hair done, and we didn't go anywhere. He didn't want to leave his house, and I didn't understand that.
I don't think anybody who goes into combat could ever honestly say that they're not different when they come home. You're never going to be that same person ever again. Now, you don't like people coming up to you and slapping you on the back. Hey, how are you? Loud noises. I can remember somebody dropped a huge box off the back of a truck, and I about jumped out of my shoes.
I never saw his behavior as strange. I just thought that it was me. Not that he was completely different, but he was behaving different. So he looked the same. And I think that was what I prayed for every night when he was away, was for him to be safe. Never thinking that his safety was certainly paramount, but there were other repercussions of his time away.
It's figuring out who you are again. You're not wearing the uniform anymore. You're around a lot of people who don't really understand you or where you've been.
He would get frustrated with me, with friends, frustrated about little things. We'd get in little fights all the time. He was drinking probably more than he had been before. Every day he wanted a new job. Every day he didn't know who he was going to be, and every day we were moving to a new place. In his mind, oh, well, I found this place. Let's move to Oklahoma. Let's move to Kentucky. Let's move to North Carolina. And it just started to grate on me. He'd come home from work, his first civilian position, and pick up a 6-pack, a 12-pack, and drink the whole thing.
It's like a pressure cooker. You just boiling away, just building up steam and pressure. And some people, they can, pop that release valve, and they can just kind of self-medicate, so to speak, or figure it out on their own, come to grips with what they've been through. And then there's some people, I think, that just, for some reason, they just can't find, that mechanism to deal with, the trauma, the memories, the The loud noises, the smells.
Every night he would check the doors and windows, make sure that they were locked, and it was interesting because I didn't know that that was something that was normal till I talked to some other spouses who said, oh, my husband does that too, and we sort of would joke about it. Oh, wow, that's, normal. But one night he actually took his revolver, which we keep, at our house for safety reasons, and thought someone was in the house. And I had to explain to him no one was there. No one was in the house. And I think that that was one of the times where Eric realized, wow, something's wrong.
Pretty sure there's probably guys that I serve with that don't have PTSD. And I know there's guys that I have served with who've got severe PTSD. And the severity is personal as well. I wouldn't per se classify mine as a particularly severe case of PTSD, but it's there. It's definitely affected my life. It's affected my family life.
But what happens is there's a decision that a significant other makes, and it's, do you stay or do you go? And too many people go. I mean, we have the most married military since the Civil War, and there's so many people right now who are married and they're going through the same thing. And many of them choose to leave. And I think that, in talking to Eric, the fact that I stayed is really what got him better.
I needed to seek some sort of outside help. That this was not something I was going to be able to tackle on my own. It wasn't something I was just going to be able to bury and put away and deal with. And so I wanted to try to take care of this before I had kids. I wanted to take care of it, for my wife. I began to realize that I was subjecting her to a great deal of emotional baggage that she really had no earthly reason to have to deal with.
If you have each other, you can do anything. And I think that's what's been hard, because I think for a while there I didn't have him.
Highly recommend people seek professional assistance, from anybody. But definitely somebody who understands those signs, understands how to, handle people that have these kinds of challenges.
We didn't want to raise our daughter with this baggage. But we really realized that together we were able to blaze our own trail, build each other up. You have to just fall and expect that the other one's going to catch you. Because if you don't have that trust in one another, you don't have that trust that the other person can get better.
Got my wife, who I love very much, and I have a baby coming. And, if I could have planned this out, I would be very happy with how things are coming together. Because I am in an entirely different place than I was a year and a half ago.
If he had been a father a couple of years ago in the place where he was, I think that it would have been much more difficult for him to see the silver lining and what was next. Certainly both of us are scared. I mean, we have less than a month until my due date, so that's a little nerve-wracking. But we know we can do it together, just like we got through this.